Man, this topic is actually depressing enough that I feel like I don't want to cover it. I don't really know how extensively I want to cover it because it's very important, but it's also like there's just nothing good to say about it. The how do I like summarize this? How do I summarize this? Can I find like a Twitter post? Like, can I save on Brainspace and just like read a Twitter? I can. I'm just gonna read this Twitter post. I'm stealing content. I'm shamelessly stealing content. Fahrenheit 451. It's actually more depressing than if they were just burning the books. A big article came out recently on the Washington Post on Anthropic, the AI startup, their effort to essentially annihilate all it. They're like Brainiac. You know Brainiac's deal? Like he'll absorb all information, then destroy the universe or whatever. They're doing that. That's the goal. They're doing Brainiac stuff. I'm just going to read this. So here's what happened. Project Panama. Anthropic concluded that books were the cheapest way to build a world-class AI LLM model because they gave Claude curated facts, structured arguments, compelling stories, and writing an editor would approve of. Basically, like if you take a look at Grok or whatever, or ChatGPT, a lot of the bad outcomes that you get from the LLM is because it's being fed data from unreliable sources. Like if you're scraping data from social media to train an LLM, you're going to get a retarded LLM. You get me? Once Anthropic decided it needed books at an enormous scale, its first solution was piracy. It downloaded 7 million plus books from online libraries, including LibGen. The judge later wrote that though Anthropic had legal ways to buy them, it chose piracy to avoid what Dario Amodei called the legal practice business slog. This piracy policy created a massive legal risk. So in February 2024, Anthropic hired Tom Turvey, former head of partnership for Google Books, to find a legally safer way of obtaining, quote, all the books in the world. Turvey first contacted major publishers about licensing their catalogs. Those attempts didn't produce agreements, so Anthropic chose a route that required no publisher permission, buying millions of physical books through distributors and used book retailers. Within about a year, Anthropic spent tens of millions acquiring and scanning millions of books, including many rare one-to-one titles, or sorry, one out of one titles. Like there's one book. One vendor proposal targeted 500,000 to 2 million books in 6 months. To scan that many books within months, the vendors physically destroyed them. A hydraulic cutter removed each spine. The pages were trimmed to size, fed as loose sheet through high-speed industrial scanners, and converted into searchable PDFs. The paper's remains were then sent to recycling. All of these were used for Claude's training data. The complete collection became a private, searchable Anthropic library the company planned to, quote, store forever. The scans aren't available to the public and were never openly sourced. So the fastest and most cost-efficient way of incorporating the information from all of these one-out-of-one books, these rare books, was just to physically destroy them. We do, of course, have ways of scanning large numbers of books without destroying them. These have existed for ages. They allow you to scan each page, page by page. But the fastest and most cost-effective way of scanning through them involves destroying them. Like they said, destroying the spine and just turning the books into a bunch of loose-leaf paper that can be rapidly scanned. Then you don't have to turn any pages. You just treat it like a big block of pages. This is also, as Masaigu wisely points out, a consequence of copyright law. Copyright law means they have to destroy the books if they don't want to get publishers' permission to scan them, even if they're now public domain. The gist of it is, and this is a very evil, like legal loophole, basically, that if the books still exist, they need to get the publisher's permission in order to incorporate them into their AI dataset. But if the books no longer physically exist, and the AI data set is now the only source of that information, the incorporation of that book's data into Claude's training data, it's no longer copyright infringement to use it because it's the only place where it exists. In essence, the publisher no longer has exclusive right to the commercial use of these books because the only place where they exist, like, I'm trying to think of a way to put this. A publisher owns the rights to a book, but there's only one of that book in the world. You can buy that book and own the only copy of it, but that doesn't give you the intellectual rights to it. It just gives you the one copy. However, if you destroy that one copy and its only existing iteration is in Claude's code, you're now no longer engaging in copyright infringement. You have to destroy the source. Does that make sense? Wouldn't they only have to purchase one unique copy of every book? Yeah, but there are a lot of rare books out there, and there are books for which there is only one published copy. A lot of them are rare. Don't get me, I mean, obviously they're rare if there's only one of them. I'm not going to pretend that all of these books are like, critical human art or whatever, but I want you to really reflect on what this looks like. It's not about the only existing version in the code. It's more about commercial use of copyrighted material. Well, that's what I'm talking about, right? That the commercial use of copyrighted material is now somehow legally enabled due to the destruction of the book. In early 2024, executives at AI startup Anthropic ran an ambitious project they sought to keep quiet. Project Panama is our effort to destructively scan all the books in the world, an internal planning document unsealed in legal filings last week. We don't want it to be known we're working on this. Pretty straightforward. Within about a year, according to filings, I'd be surprised if they use single copy books. Why? What's an example of a book they would use in this project? All books. They want to scan every book. They're trying to create the best AI training model. They want to scan all books. Every book. It's not that it's legally enabled, it's that destroying the copies means destroying the evidence the books were ever used. Wait, really? Wait. You're saying it's not even about giving legal pretext. It's just destroying the book means you can no longer prove that it was ever used as part of the data set because the courts don't even have the original. Okay, clearly my understanding of this legal loophole is flawed. Let me read more in this article. The point is that this is unbelievably evil. Nothing about destroying a book revokes copyright. Well, maybe not technically. Details of Project Panama, which has not been previously reported, emerged in more than 4,000 pages of documents in a copyright lawsuit brought by book authors against Anthropic, which has been valued by investors at $183 billion. The company agreed to pay $1.5 billion to settle the case in August, but a district judge's decision last week to unseal a slew of documents in the case fully revealed Anthropic's zealous pursuit of books. Let's see. The wave of lawsuits, crucial prize. One Anthropic co-founder theorized that training AI models on books could teach them, quote, how to write well, instead of mimicking, quote, low-quality internet speak. Court records suggest that the companies didn't see it as practical to gain direct permission from publishers and authors to use their work. Instead, Anthropic, Meta, and other companies found ways to acquire books in bulk without the author's knowledge, court filings allege, including by downloading pirated copies. They knew they were breaking the law, not that it fucking matters, because you can just pay a fine in the form of a settlement. A fine or a fee? Man hailed the July 2022 debut of a new website called the Pirate Library Mirror, which claims to have a massive database of books, and it stated, quote, we deliberately violate the copyright law in most countries. Man sent a link to the site to other Anthropic employees with the message, just in time. Laws don't matter if you can pay your way through them? Yup. It's called evidence tampering. So you're saying then that this has the destruction of these books, in addition to being a physical necessity because they needed to quickly scan the loose leaf paper, that it is literally just destroying the evidence that that information was ever used if there was only one version of that book or only one iteration of that book, thus making it impossible to trace back to the source. Jesus. Paid $1.5 billion without admitting wrongdoing. I don't think it's that they're destroying unique copies of books, more destroying any evidence for authors to sue over. Yeah, but if there is only one of that book, then it's sort of one and the same. If there is media coverage suggesting we have used a data set we know to be pirated, such as LibGen, this may undermine our negotiating position with regulators on these issues, the email went on. I don't know how, like, what does this say about our system? I'm sorry, I feel like I'm pontificating in the most like sophomore, like the most like, hey guys, did you know that there's a two-tier justice system? But what does it say when you have like leaked emails where everyone here is like, We are breaking the law. We know we're breaking the law, but the only legal consequences are a civil suit you can just pay a settlement for to not admit fault. Like, at what point does it? Fisher Sam, I have no idea what you're talking about. Anthropic's decision to begin acquiring and scanning physical books instead of downloading shadow libraries turned out to be a smart call. This would be a good example of the company taking a more restrained approach in achieving legal compliance. Jesus Christ. Iran launched a sneak attack on us like an hour ago? Okay, whatever, man. When an algorithm is trained on data, you can't unblur it. Yeah. It makes it easy to get away with piracy because you can't prove whatever. Buying from secondhand warehouses also mean it's less likely original authors or publishers will get any hint of what they're doing, which is why they do it. Yeah. So fucking contemptuous, man.